Hey guys, Mrhappy here, and I just wanted to go back to the basics a little bit. I've been doing a lot of level 50 videos, and I decided that maybe I should go back to the beginning and work my way up with a few of these things. So today, we're going to be doing a quick dungeon run of the Sastasha Seagrout, I believe it's called. I call it Sastasha a lot of the times, and a lot of people seem to call it Sastasha. I wonder where the just lack of care for the S went, because I honestly, until today, thought it was called Sastasha. I just called it Sastasha, never the Sastasha Seagrout, or I completely forgot there was even a second part to the name, but it's the first dungeon you're going to encounter in the game. It's level 15 dungeon. Maximum level you can be, I believe it's 18. It does have a level cap on it. I know it's a 15 to 18 dungeon technically, but it's not really a big deal. No matter what level range you are, it's a pretty easy dungeon. It's introductory. It's meant to introduce people to the game and the mechanics of bosses, and it's just not meant to be very difficult. So, as you can see here, we're sped up and we're just going to clear through some trash right now. I wanted to include the whole run for any tanks that may be wondering what the individual pulls look like. If you're looking just for the bosses will be at specific times, although it's really only the last boss that might give people a little bit of trouble if you don't know how to do it. But even with, even under geared or under experienced, the last boss isn't that difficult as long as you have a tank that can at least hold the aggro tables on all the enemies. So, as you can see here, still just clearing out enemies. Now, this is actually one part I do want to note, and it's actually, here, you'll see right here, as you can see on the right hand side, we have these clams here that you have to destroy. These, all the lights that spawn on the outside of them will actually constantly respawn until you destroy the clams. And the clams, they close occasionally. When they close, they're immune to damage, and when they open, you can kill them. And you can usually kill them very quickly, so it's not really a big deal, this part. It can be a little bit of a damage thing, like the tank might take a little bit more damage than you're expecting. But as long as your tank runs in there, gets an AoE down, then the healer should be fine, the DPS should be fine, and everything should go fine. Like I said, it's an introductory dungeon. There's really not much meant to be here. Now, as you can see here, we're coming over to this giant clam, and there's actually a treasure coffer behind me. In case you're wondering what treasure coffers do in A Realm Reborn, at least in the lower level dungeons, at some of the end game dungeons for the story, they don't really matter as much. But at least at the lower level portions, they usually either drop what are known as Allegan pieces, which can be vendored and sold for gil. And actually, we'll come back to that after we do the first boss, because we got here way quicker than I expected. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit here. So the biggest mechanic of this fight is really before the fight even begins. There's 3 corals in all corners of the arena. If you click the right one, the boss will spawn, and actually a switch will spawn, and then when you go to touch the switch, the boss will spawn. And if not, then you'll poison yourself, and you'll have to fight an ad real quick. I've walked in here and gotten the boss on the first touch. When you touch the right one, it just activates the switch, and then you can go over and press the switch to trigger the boss. If you press the wrong one, you'll get poisoned, and you'll have to fight a small ad. It's not too difficult. And other than that, this boss really just auto-attacks the tank, does a few AoEs, and that paralyze you. And other than that, it's really a tank and spank. It is the introductory of introductory bosses. They really only has one mechanic other than that pre-fight mechanic that I was talking about. But as I was saying about the treasure coffers before, now this one in particular is a boss coffer, which means it always drops a decent piece of loot. It actually dropped a tank piece right here, which was very convenient because I'm not on my main character with this one. So, treasure coffers in this game, they usually just drop junk. They can drop potions sometimes and ethers, but they a lot of the times they just drop Allegan pieces, which can be sold to the vendor. That's pretty much their only use. But they also have a chance at dropping what is known as ethereal gear. It's actually a pink grade gear that's slightly worse than the actual dungeon grade gear you get in here, the set items that you get. But it's good, it's helpful, and most of the time it's off pieces like rings and belts and things like that. So it really does help you bridge the gap with your gear. So I would definitely be looking out for them, and I'm actually going to get all of them in this dungeon. So now we're coming up on the second boss, and the second boss is another not too complicated boss. He's one guy. He comes with 2 ads. And you really just have to kill the ads first. Make sure that your entire party is focusing down all the ads. And then as soon as you're done with that, you just need to move on to the boss. He'll run away at a high... He'll still have like 70% of his health when he runs away. And he'll trigger a treasure coffer and he'll get more loot. So this is actually a pretty easy place to get some loot at level 15. As you can see here, we're starting to damage the boss. And his parrot, by the way, which is known as a colibri, is really annoying the entire time. As you can see, it is talking in the background. So, you know, actually, he gets down to about 50% health before he runs away. So he runs away, and for any Arcanists out there that have their pet, make sure you heal your pet so that they don't chase him. Otherwise, you might aggro a bunch of monsters in the next room. So I ran into the north room to check to see if there's a treasure chest there, and now is where this specific dungeon run gets a little bit hard to watch, I will admit. Now, you're going to have to clear out the middle of this room to get a key, but as you can see here, my Thaumaturge thought it would be very, very clever to only use Blizzard 2. Thaumaturges, I ask that you don't only spam Blizzard 2. It means that if I'm ever not spamming Flash, you're pretty much gonna pull aggro, and it means that I have to get more mana back between AoEs. If there's 3 monsters, it's sometimes not as bad, but also look at how much of an eyesore this is to watch. It is unbearable to watch this when I'm stuffed in the corner as a little Taru. So as you can see, we ran over into this corner. We're gonna grab this treasure coffer. We didn't get anything. We just got a few of those Allegan pieces. And those monsters that we killed in the middle of the room actually dropped a what did they drop? They dropped a key that'll allow you to access the next part of the dungeon, and it really just lets you access a room that gives you a key that lets you access the rest of the dungeon. So it's pretty good. Now this room is pretty complicated. It's, as you can see, the Thaumaturge actually died because of that whole Blizzard 2 thing. There's actually 6 monsters in this room, and one of them is fighting 5 of them. So your goal here is to try and kill any of the 5 before the one dies. Otherwise, they'll all turn on you. And it's a lot of damage. This is probably the hardest pull of the entire dungeon, to be honest. And it's an optional pull, but it gives you a treasure coffer, which, again, has a chance at that ethereal grade loot that we were talking about. So as you can see, we're running over here. I'm going to pull these. You can see here that my tanking isn't exactly stellar, and it really doesn't help that I was getting very, very annoyed with the Blizzard 2 spam coming out of this Thaumaturge. But you know what? It wasn't that big of a deal. I knew I could at least handle it I could handle it for the most part. It's just like this. How obnoxious is this? I try to fix the camera to make it not as bad, but now now is when the Thaumaturge didn't even care that it was only on one monster. Just does it anyway. Did they do it in this fight? No. Okay, they're actually casting fire on this fight. So this fight's pretty simple. It's a really quick fight. It's not even a boss. I don't know why they stuck him in a room all by himself. It's just a warrior type mob that'll use overpower, and if you move out of the way, you're good. You're never gonna take that much damage. Even just watching this clip again to comment over it, this Thaumaturge is getting on my nerves. Don't do that, please, Thaumaturges. So now I'm going to slow it down right here. We're coming up to the 3rd boss, which is the 2nd boss again, actually. He's got 2 new ads. And as you can see, I pull him and all of his ads over to this door in the back. And you're going to see why in a little bit, but the rules pretty much apply here too. You just need to kill the ads and then focus on the boss for a little bit. There is only one new mechanic to this fight, and it's not even really a mechanic. It's just more enemies that you have to deal with. At this Thaumaturge, man, I don't know what to say about this Thaumaturge. As you can see here, I got a little reminder about something, so maybe I should chop that out. I'll probably just cover that up with something. If you see a little black box in the bottom right, it's because something came up on my desktop, and I must have had monitor capture up instead of game capture when I was doing this, but not a big deal. Another thing, don't knock back enemies. But here, anyway, when he hits about 50%, the gates will open, and he'll summon 4 wolves. This is the one part where I actually like that the Thaumaturge was spamming Blizzard 2. Blizzard 2 is actually really good at this part to kill the wolves. As long as you have a little bit of MP for Flash, they'll die pretty quickly. So after that, we pick up the treasure chest, and now we're coming up to the 2nd to last room of the dungeon. It seems pretty short, but I did speed this up. This run does, as if you can see the timer on the right-hand side, is actually taking a while. It's not a really, really short dungeon, but not a particularly long one either. Oh my, just stop. So this room right here that we're going to I can't stop looking at that Thaumaturge. You have no idea. This room we're going to clear right here. We're actually only clearing for experience purposes. I know I leveled a little bit. No, yeah, I leveled a little bit earlier. I gained quite a bit of a level. I knew I leveled up in this dungeon. I missed it when I was commentating about actually where I leveled up. But yeah, we're just killing these things. There's no treasure coffers to be gained by killing these enemies. And you can really just walk along the left-hand wall when you enter the room. Kill just maybe 4 or 5 enemies and then get to the boss. You really don't need to be killing all of these enemies that we are killing. And the only reason we're killing these is because I am a tank and I'm trying to show everyone the entire dungeon. And there's not really much more to say at this part. This is sped up to the maximum, I believe, too. So I'm really just waiting for all the enemies to die so I can talk about the final boss. The final boss actually has some mechanics that can be prevented. And it's the first real test of teamwork in your dungeon. And we actually had pretty decent teamwork here. I've had a lot of groups that don't know to do this. And as you can see here, we're entering the final boss. I'm telling them what to do. The final boss is a giant Sahagin. And as you can see here, we have these ripples on the four corners of the arena. So basically, as the tank, you want to pull them close to this ripple right here, and you want to have your group sort of spread out. Obviously, if you have more melee than you have mages, then it's a little bit harder. But basically, every 25% of his health approximately, these ripples are going to start bubbling. As you can see, they're running over there to the bubbled ones. And all you have to do as a ranged, or even as another melee, is you just have to run over to the ripples and turn them off. You can either turn off just one to remove the threat of some of the ads, or you can try and turn them all off. As you can see, in between the boss's auto attacks, I was actually able to turn off this ripple, and we actually have everybody in the group running to get ripples. So this group did really well with this boss and understanding how it works. Other than that, you really just have to move out of that cone breath attack. As you can see, I have a little bit of trouble getting the ripples, but I got him in the end, so it's okay. And as long as you can do that, you can use your limit break on this guy, your DPS limit break. I'm not sure if this guy actually uses it. And you'll be done. You'll have the first dungeon done, and you'll be able to move on to the Tamtara Deepcroft. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Also follow me on Facebook and Twitter for regular updates of Final Fantasy XIV content. And you can also follow me on Twitch. I'll be streaming occasionally. But other than that, guys, there isn't really much more to say. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. Hopefully this was useful to you, and don't worry, I'll be working my way up to some of the endgame dungeons over the course of the next few weeks. So as you can see, we got some loot here, nothing I can really use, so I'll just greet it anyway. You can trade that stuff in. If you can't use it, you can just trade it in. But anyway, guys, again, thank you for watching, and just want to do a little wave. Yeah, I forgot I prepared that, so yeah, I think I did it a few times. Yep. There we go. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.